What a long day. So today, I shoveled into a wheelbarrow and then slowly dispersed it around the perimeter of a building. 13 yards of dirt that had been sitting out in the ice and snow for about 3 days. So, by the end of the day, my arms and chest and everything was so dead that I couldn't even lift the wheelbarrow. So I actually strapped a couple of straps to the wheelbarrow that were just short enough so that when I stood up, it would lift the wheelbarrow up. And then I just kind of walked back and forth in that. And I got it done. So now it's just to sending in the bill for that job, but man, it reminds me of why sometimes I don't particularly like the handyman work, but sometimes, I mean, it pays the bills, and I have to do what pays the bills right now till I can get to a point where the things that I find to be more fun, or the things that I have been working on, will end up paying the bills, like the apartment complexes that I've been building. And like hopefully someday this YouTube channel will be a little bit of supplemental. It won't, unfortunately, I don't think, get to ever the size or the amount where it will actually bring in a large income. But this is kind of my my detox for the day, or my crash. Is kind of just coming to you guys, reading, and just kind of sharing some of the tidbits of what happened that day and of everything going forward. So anyway, what we're on today is we're on Jim Butcher's Small Favor. Don't know if you guys can see that with how dark it is. Let's go like this. There. Now can you guys see it? Maybe. Anyway, we are on chapter 9. So I'm going to go ahead here and get started. Whilst I do, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share my channel with others. Let's go ahead here and get started in this. When there's a gun pointed at you, you've got two options. Either you move fast and unexpectedly and hope that you get lucky, or you freeze and try to talk your way clear. Given that I had really limited room in which to attempt to dodge or run, I went with option B. I held still. I don't suppose, I asked hopefully, that this is the full military model. It has individually heated seats and a 6-disc CD changer, Thomas said. I scowled. Uh-huh. Those are way cooler than silly features like armor and bulletproof glass. Hey, Thomas said, it's not my fault you have special needs. Harry, said the man with the shotgun, hold up your right hand, please. I arched an eyebrow at that. Typically, the vocabulary of thugs holding guns to your head ran a little light on courtesy phrases like please. You want me to kill him? Thomas murmured, barely audible. I twitched my head in a tiny negative motion. Then I lifted up my right hand, fingers spread. Turn it around, said the man outside. Let me see the inside of your wrist. I did. Oh, thank God, breathed the voice. I'd finally placed it. I turned my head to one side and said through the glass, Hey there, Fix. Is that a shotgun you're holding to my head, or are you just glad to see me? Fix was a young, slender man of medium height. His hair was silver white and very fine, and though no one would ever accuse him of beauty, there was a confidence and sterility in his plain features that gave him a certain appeal. He was a far cry from the nervous, scrawny kid I'd first met several years ago. He wore jeans and a green silk shirt, nothing more. He obviously should have been freezing, and he just as obviously wasn't. The thickly falling snowflakes weren't striking him. Every single one seemed to find its way to the ground around him, somehow. He held a pump-action shotgun with a long barrel against his shoulder, and wore a sword on a belt at his hip. "Harry," he said, his voice steady, his tone wasn't hostile. "Can, we have a polite talk?" "We probably could have," I said, "if you hadn't started off with pointing a gun at my head." "A necessary precaution," he said. "I needed to be sure you hadn't taken Mab's offer." "And become the new White Knight?" I asked. "You could have asked me, Fix." "If you'd become Mab's creature," Fix said, "you would have lied. It would have changed you, made you an extension of her will. I couldn't trust you." "You're the Summer Knight," I replied, "so I can't help but wonder if that wouldn't make you just a controlled and untrustworthy. Summer's not at all that happy with me right now, apparently. Maybe you're just an extension of Summer's will." Fix stared at me down the barrel of the shotgun. Then he lowered it abruptly and said, "Touché." Thomas produced from nowhere a semi-automatic pistol scaled to fit his truck, and it had trained on Fix's head before the other man had finished speaking the second syllable of the word. Fix's eyes widened. "Holy crap!" I sighed and took the gun gently from Thomas's grip. Now, let's not give him the wrong idea about the nature of this conversation." Fix let out a slow breath. "Thank you, Harry. I pointed the gun at Fix's head, and he froze with his mouth partly open. "Lose the shotgun," I told him. I made no effort to sound friendly. His mouth closed, and his lips pressed into a thin line, but he obeyed. "Step back," I said. He did. I got out of the car, carefully keeping the gun trained on his head. I recovered the shotgun and passed it back to Thomas. Then I faced the silver-haired Summer Knight in dead silence while the snow fell. "Fix," I said quietly after a moment had passed, "I know you've been spending a lot of time in the supernatural circles lately. I know that plain old things like guns don't seem like a significant threat. In some ways. I know that you probably meant it as a message, that you weren't coming after me with everything you could bring to bear, and that I was supposed to consider it a token of moderation." I squinted down at the sight of Thomas's gun. "But you crossed a line. You pointed a gun at my head. Friends don't do that." More silence and snowfall. "Point another weapon at me," I said quietly, "and you damned well better pull the trigger. Do you understand me?" Fix's eyes narrowed. He nodded once. I let him look down the gun's barrel for a few more seconds and then lowered it. "It's cold," I said. "What do you want?" "I came here to warn you, Harry," Fix said. "I know Mab has chosen you to act as her emissary. You don't know what you're getting into. I came to tell you to stand clear of it." "What?" "Or you're going to get hurt," Fix said quietly. He sounded tired. "Maybe killed. And there's going to be collateral damage along the way." He held up a hand and continued hurriedly. "Please understand. I'm not threatening you, Harry. I'm just telling you about consequences." "I'd have an easier time believing that if you hadn't opened the conversation by threatening to kill me," I said. "The last Summer Knight was murdered by his winter counterpart," Fix replied. "In fact, that's how most of them die. If you'd taken service with Mab, I wouldn't stand a chance in a fair fight against you, and we both know it. I did what I had in order to warn you and still protect myself." "Oh," I said, "it was a precautionary shotgun aimed at my skull. That makes it different." "Damn it, Dresden," Fix said. "What do I have to do to get you to listen to me?" "Behave in a vaguely trustworthy fashion," I said. "For instance, next time you know that Summer's hitters are about to make a run at me, maybe you could call me on the telephone and give me a little heads up?" Fix grimaced. His face twisted into an expression of effort. When he spoke, his jaws stayed locked together. But I could, with difficulty, understand the words. "Wanted to." "Oh," I said. A big chunk of my anger evaporated. I was probably just as well. Fix wasn't the one who deserved to be on the receiving end of it. I can't back off. He drew in a breath and nodded as if in comprehension. Mab's got a handle on you. For now. He gave me a rather bleak smile. She isn't the sort to let go of anyone she wants to keep. And I'm not the sort who gets kept, I replied. Maybe not, Fix said, but he sounded dubious. Are you sure you won't reconsider? We're going to have to agree to disagree. Jesus, Fix said, looking away. I don't want to square off against you, Dresden. Then don't. He stared quietly at me, his expression serious. I can't back off either. I like you, Harry, but I can't make you any promises. We're playing for opposite teams, I said. Nothing personal, but we'll do what we do. Fix nodded. We didn't speak for almost a minute. Then I laid the shotgun down in the snow, nodded, and got back into Thomas's truck. I gave the huge automatic back to my brother. Fix made no move toward the shotgun. Harry, he said, as the truck started to pull out. His mouth twitched a few times before he blurted, Remember the leaf Lily gave you? I frowned at him, but nodded. Thomas got back in the truck, moving again, and started driving. Windshield wipers squeaked. Snow crunched beneath tires, a steady white noise. Okay, Thomas said. What was that all about? Guy's supposed to be a friend, and he screwed you over? I thought you were going to pistol-whip him for a minute, and then you start getting all teary-eyed? Metaphorically speaking, I said tiredly. You know what I mean. He's under a guise, Thomas. Thomas frowned. Lily's gotten him in a brain lock? I doubt she'd do that to Fix. They go back. Who then? My money is on Titania, the Summer Queen. If she told him to keep his mouth shut and not to help me, he couldn't get a choice in the matter. Probably why he showed up armed and tried to intimidate me. He wouldn't be able to speak to me outright, but if he's delivering a threat in order to further Titania's plans, it might let him get around the guys. This seems pretty thin to me. You believe him? Titania's done it to him before, and she doesn't really like me. You kill someone's daughter, that happens, he said. I shrugged wearily, tired to my bones. The combination of pain, cold, and multiple bursts of adrenaline had worn me down a lot more than I realized. I couldn't stop another yawn. What was he talking about as we pulled out? Oh, I mumbled. After that mess at Arctic Tour, Lily gave me a silver pin in the shape of an oak leaf. It makes me an esquire of summer. Supposedly I can use it to whistle up help from Titania's court. It's their way of balancing the scales for what we did. Never bad thing to be owed a favor, Thomas agreed. You got it on you? Yeah, I said. It was, in fact, in a little ring box within the inner coat of my duster. I got it out and showed it to Thomas. He whistled. Gorgeous work. The she, no pretty, I agreed. Maybe you can use it and get them off your back. I snorted. It's never that simple. Titania could decide that the best way to help me would be to break my back, paralyze me from the waist down, and dump me into a hospital bed so her gruffs won't have to kill me. Thomas grunted. Then why would Fix mention it? Maybe he was compelled to, I said. Maybe Titania's hoping I'll call for help and she'll have a chance to squash me personally. Or maybe... I let my voice trail off for a moment while I kicked my punch-drunk brain in the stomach until I threw up an idea. Or maybe, I said, because he wanted to warn me about it. The Gruffs have found me twice now, and they haven't been physically trailing or tracking me. Neither location was one of my regular hangouts. And how did Fix find me just now, in the middle of a blizzard? He sure as hell didn't coincidentally pick a random IHOP. Thomas's eyes widened in realization. It's a tracking device? I scowled at the beautiful little silver leaf and said, not without a certain amount of grudging admiration, Titania. That conniving bitch. Damn, Thomas said. I feel a little bad for pointing the gun at the shrimp now. I probably would too, I said, if I wasn't so weirded out by the fact that Fix is starting to be as crab-wise and squirrely as the rest of the she. Thomas grunted. Better get rid of that thing before more of them show up. He hit the control that lowered the passenger window. It coughed and rattled a little before it jerked into motion, instead of a smoothly gliding down. Wizards and technology don't get along so well. To high-tech equipment, I am a living avatar of Murphy's Law. The longer I stayed in Thomas's shiny new oil tanker, the more all the things that could go wrong would go wrong. I lifted the leaf to chuck it out, but something made me hesitate. No, I murmured. Thomas blinked. No? No, I said with more certainty, closing my hand around the treacherous silver leaf. I've got a better idea. Thank you for listening to Chapter 9 with me of Dresden Files, Small Favor. Thank you so very much for being part of this channel and for being part of what we do here. And I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. And you have a wonderful, wonderful, and blessed day.